Good day, everyone. Welcome to our session today. It's December 3. Though I cannot be virtually with you, I am recording this lesson discussion so that we cannot miss a topic that is actually assigned already and scheduled already for a particular session. So for December 3, we're supposed to have our synchronous, but because of a lot of other things that I need to attend to, we are having a meeting, and then there are some class observations that need to be done. So I am recording this discussion for everyone. Okay, so let's begin. We are now in Unit 4, Language and Culture. That's the title of the unit, and the module is about semiotics and sign language. Now, first is I'd like to ask, how are you feeling today? Now, every day we encounter different experiences that affect our emotions and mood. Of course, no, you may ask if we are in a face-to-face setup, I would like you to ask your seatmate as to how he is feeling today and what made him feel this way. So, for example, some of you might say, Mom, I'm feeling tired today because last night I slept very late doing a lot of activities in our Google Classroom. Maybe some of you say, Mom, I'm feeling a bit excited today because it's already the beginning of December and few weeks from now it's already Christmas. So we have different feelings, no? And some of you might say, Mom, I'm feeling sick today. I have cough and colds. But the thing now is, even if you have cough and colds and even if you are sick, you can still attend class because we are doing the class online and virtual. So we have different feelings. And usually, okay, we have this new technology now, like the cell phone, for example, and we can chat, we can text. And then we can actually show our emotions, no? Not just using words, but using what? Using pictures, no? Or using this smiley face, or we call it mga emojis or emoticons, no? So say for example, how many of these pictures here can you identify in terms of feeling? So the first one may be feeling very happy, no? With a very big smile. Below that, maybe confused, no? Kay yung eyebrows, you can see nga murag slanting, murag, huh? Confused. Next, kanang sunod, unsa man na siya, angry, sad, angry na po usa syagit nga with a very big mouth, and then and so on and so forth. So maybe you have the same interpretation with me sa kaning mga circles. Maybe some of you are also having different, pero most likely maura gyud nga tanong og panghunahunaan ni. All right. Now, I'd like you to, aside from those emoticons, there are also logos, no? That we see all around us. Now we see symbols. Every time we see the letter F with white and blue background, what do we think of? Facebook, no? How about if we see an envelope? What is that? Maybe some of you are already answering message. How about that arrow? Nga kada bitong tulo siya ka arrow that is forming a triangle. Unsa man na siya? Recycle, maybe. So I'd like you to look at this, no? We see around us different symbols and icons. Try to decode the meaning of the following images. Be number 1, unsa man na siya? Facebook for sure. Number 2, a picture of a tree. What do we usually see there? Save Mother Earth or plant a tree. Number 3, kanang ay picture of lips. Usually na siya caption, no? What is it? Kiss me or what, no? Number 4, recycle or reduce, reuse, recycle. Number 5, that's an image of a baby in the womb. What is that? Number 6, na diha. 7, 8, kana na ay piggy bank, savings, no? 9, BBC. So man jud na siya. So it's a channel, no? 10, if we see that icon, we think of a telephone. Now look at the images to the left. Kani siya sa kung ani siya gyud no sa cellphone nato usually makit-an or sa computer. We have that envelope. What is that? Mail, no? Second is there is a camera. So we usually say we usually use that kung mag-picture, no? And then monitor, and then kana i-zoom kana murag kanang lens unsa man na, kanang scissor, kanang arrow, and etc. Okay, so we see a lot of signs and symbols, and these are called semiotics. Unsa man ang semiotics? Semiotics is the theory and study of signs and symbols, especially as elements of language or other systems of communication. So, common examples of semiotics include traffic signs. Kana mga symbol lang bitaw, pero they have meaning that is understood internationally and nationally, no? Like emoticons, the ones I shared with you earlier, na smiley face, kabatang happy na, kanang murag na nagluha-luha, nagtuto ang luha-luha, so that is kuan, kana na ang nag-crying, no? So common examples of emoticons include traffic signs, emojis, no? Emoticons used in electronic communications and logos and brands used by international corporations to sell, like to sell and to brand loyalty, no? Semiotics, also called semiology, was defined by one of its founders, the Swiss linguist Ferdinand de Saussure. So kada si Ferdinand de Saussure, as a study of the life of science within society, he actually concocted, or he was the one responsible for a discipline in the field of the study of language that has something to do with images. So he is an American philosopher. No, no, no. Saussure is really the one with this, but although the word was used in the sense in the 17th century by an English philosopher, John Locke, the idea of semiotics as an interdisciplinary field of study emerged only in the late 19th and 20th century because of the independent work of Saussure and an American philosopher, Charles Sanders Peirce. Okay. Now, practice of semiotics and the history of this, no? So, a person who studies or practices semiotics is called a semiotician. Karon pa man sa takadungog anak no. Maybe some of you are familiar already, but mostly murag wa gyud kaitaan ang nada na inana ma'am. Yes. All we see is just an image or a brand, but naa gyud siya study on that. And if you study that and you become a scholar on that, then you are called semiotician. Many terms and concepts used by contemporary semioticians were introduced by the Swiss linguist Ferdinand de Saussure. Now, Saussure defined a sign as any motion, gesture, image, pattern, or even events that convey meaning. He defined language as the structure or grammar of a language. Okay, and the choices made by the speaker to communicate that information. Kaya naman, we can communicate that information not just using words, according to Saussure. We can use images to convey meaning. We can use logo to convey meaning. No? So, semiotics is a key study into the evolution of human consciousness. If we look into philosophy, so musud sa diri si John Locke, because he tried to tie the advancement of intelligence to 3 steps. First, understanding the nature of things. Second, understanding what to do to achieve whatever you wish to achieve. And the ability to communicate these things to another. So language began with signs. In John Locke's terminology, signs are dyadic. That is, a sign is tied to a specific meaning. So, philosophically, you look at signs and images with a conscious meaning. Actually, subconsciously, the effort is not really there, but subconscious lang makita rin yung mga kabaw ra gyud ka nga naa na siya meaning. So, like, say, for example, you see an image of check. Di na ka kailangan mag-analyze mga, unsa may pasabot ani, uy, unsa man ni, uy. Nagani meaning sa check, that means go, or true, or correct. Na ang gani kay makita nga thumbs up, that means you have the go signal, that means you are agreed upon. Di na siya kailangan gid og grabe nimong analysis, no? Now, aside from John Locke as one of the people behind this, there is also Charles Sanders Peirce. So Charles Sanders Peirce is also a is also a philosopher, and he said that science work only if there is an intelligence capable of learning from experience. So Peirce's conception of semiotics was triadic, tulo iyaha, no? Signs, the sign, the meaning, and the interpretation from the interpreter. So modern semioticians look at the entire network of signs and symbols around us that mean different things in different contexts, even signs and symbols that are sounds. Think of what an ambulance, no? Kaning siren communicates when you are driving. So, someone is endangered and that we are in a hurry to help. So, kung driver ka, lahi siya meaning, no? Uy, mo pull over ka or mo padaplin ka kay imong paagion ang ambulance. But kung ikaw, pasahero lang ka, nakadungog kag ambulance, tili, unsa man sa interpretation mo, hala to ay na-disgrasya or hala to ay masakit ton. So, kutob ka sa meaning, no? Pero unsa may act nimo to do it? Maybe tan-aw ra ka sa gawas, tan-aw ka sa ambulansya, so tabo, but lahi siya action if you are the driver. Kay nga naman, that sound would tell you nga, uy, padaplin kay na imo agi, no? Alright. So, to sum it up, here are the takeaways. Semiotics is the study of signs and symbols, in particular as they communicate things spoken and unspoken. Common signs that are understood globally, pareha ra gyud tag sabot all over the world ani, no? For example, na ay P nga sign, so na ay X ana, so no parking ana, no? Or maybe no U-turn. Pareha ra gyud ta ana globally. Traffic signs, pareha ra gyud ta ana. Tuamang ka sa Amerika, di ako diri sa Pilipinas, pareha tag sabot. Emojis, pareha ra gyapon tag sabot ana, di man tungod kay kana na ang kuan ka, French ka, nya ako diri kay Filipino, ang smiley face nga emoji kay hilak dito sa imuha. Dili man, pareha ra tag sabot ana. Also, corporate logos. So, say for example, McDonald's. Kasabot kita nga McDonald's na, meaning naninda na dihag mga burgers. Dili na ingon nga nanindag mga computers, no? Pareha tag sabot ana all over the world, especially for brands that are international. Third, written and spoken language is full of semiotics in the form of intertextuality. Mga puns, mga metaphors, references to cultural commonalities. So, kani manggong semiotics, images man kay siya, no? But naa po day semiotics nga words, kintahin, no? Written and spoken language. Puno gyud kaayo og images using metaphor. Para may kag, you are my knight in shining armor. Oy, ka metaphor ana, di ba? Nya, is that an image? It is an image. Knight in shining armor. So grabe jud kay picture nimo, no, nga mura jud ka dihag the hero gyud. Okay? So, how about moingon ta ma'am nga sign language? Lain sad na siya, no? Sign language, which we're going now to that, is a language that employs signs made with the hands or other movements, including facial expressions and posture of the body, used primarily by people who are deaf. There are many different sign languages, as for example, British and American Sign Language. So British Sign Language, or BSL, is not easily intelligible to users of American Sign Language, obviously. So, sign language is often thought of in the context of the deaf community. However, there are many situations where sign language is beneficial to people who are not deaf or who are not even having a hard time hearing. When is this? Siguro kung loud kaayo ang naa ka sa concert, no? Nya, di magkakadungog, uy, nagtabi mo sa imong tapad. So, mo sign language lang ka nga, mag-CR sa ko, CR. Kay saba barong kaayo ang hard music nga, saba kaayo. So, ni-use ka og sign language. Although, dili siya bungol imuhang gika-istorya, and you yourself, you're not even deaf. But you're using sign language in a situation where it is needed. No? Sometimes sad na natug ang bata niya. You're talking to a person and then you act like you open your mouth and you put your finger or your hand mura kag ni gesture nga kaunta ana ba. But you are not deaf and the person you're talking to is not. But nag-sign language malagi mo because the situation will tell you kay naay natug nga bata di pwede magsaba. So kaunta mura lang kag mo gesture lang ka as if you are inviting the person to eat. No? So there are few intellectual and physical disabilities where research has shown that sign language can be beneficial in communication, including so kani mga special na gini mga cases no like Down syndrome, mga apraxia of mga autism, no? So lahi gud siya, you have to make signs. Okay. Now in some developing countries like the Philippines, kita no grabe pa gyud kaita og learning aning sign language. So in developing countries, deaf people may use the sign language of educators and missionaries from elsewhere in the world. For example, some deaf individuals in Madagascar use Norwegian Sign Language. By contrast, deaf children in Nicaragua have created their own sign language. Study of the emerging Nicaraguan Sign Language has revealed that children naturally possess learning abilities capable of giving language its fundamental structure. So languages have a specific sign, lain-lain di for tree, but may not have specific sign for oak. Kay kuan naman gyud kay na siya murag very very specific na gyud ba proper noun na gyud. But for tree parihara no. But kumingon kag nara tree, imo na lang na siyang finger spell. So, unsa man puning finger spelling? Maybe some of you are familiar with this. Now, finger spelling is a term for signing letters of a written alphabet. So, naa di ay mga symbols ang written alphabet. So, just like how they are many different sign languages, there are also many different sign language alphabets. Manual alphabets are used in sign language to spell out the names of people, places, and things that don't have an established sign. For example, most sign language have a specific sign for tree. Kato na mo na itong giingon no, like wala gyud siya oak. So, kailangan siya i-finger spell gyud. Okay. So, let us have a 30-second stretch break. We have discussed just to recall, we have discussed about semiotics and sign language. These are two important topics that we have talked about 18 minutes ago. And that semiotics, mo ni siya mga images, no? Emojis, emoticons, mga logos. And then the sign language, these are language that are really used by the deaf community. But then kung you want to be very specific, na natay gitawag nga finger spelling. So there is also a certain action using your fingers to spell out the words. Kaya na may corresponding letters or corresponding finger spelling type per letter. Okay? So we are still under Unit 4, which is Language and Culture. Moving on to Language and Culture, Unit 4, gihapon ta, but we move on to Module 3. We talk now of theories in language and culture. So very specific na kita ani. Now, many of us are very fond of using idioms, no? Hala, it's raining cats and dogs. Oy, don't shed your crocodile tears. Wow, I like this view here. I have the bird's eye view. Mga anak ba, no? And then, mo talk din tag, do not let the cat out of the bag. When I told you that was my secret, I did not mean that you will let the cat out of the bag. So, daghang kitag mga ingon anak ba labi ng mga English teachers, mga kani mga may kag English mo always kita mo use aning mga idioms. Let me see. How many of these can you answer? Number 1 to 15. I'd like you to get a piece of paper and pwede rag scratch, no? I'd like you to look into the following idioms in column A with the meaning in column B. I'll give you 5 minutes. Taas na kayong 5 minutes. Putira ning mo buka. 2 minutes lang. Ready? Time starts now. Murag most of you are already done. Okay. So I do not intend that we answer this now, no, but this is a very good exercise to review us from the idioms that we have learned before. So why are we talking about idioms? It is because idioms are phrases which people use in everyday language but do not actually make sense literally. But we understand what they mean, di ba? Di mo siya literal gyud gamayon kag for example, think outside the box. So mugawas mangita jud kag box niya mo thank you ka didto dapita di man. Mani kag all ears. Come here, gather everyone. All ears. So unsa may pasabot ng all ears? Tanang dunggan. Pasabot ato ana listen, no? Come here, listen intently. So man yun kag spill the beans. Wa man gyud beans niya ato yung ilabay-labay, no? But we are talking about idioms. We understand what they mean, but we don't take them literally because they don't make any sense. No? Idioms are also an important part in the culture of language users. They are pivotal, no, in learning a new language. A learner of a second language is informally considered advanced when and if he or she masters the use of idioms. Language is a collector of culture. Do you all agree? To prove this, let us consider no, physiological units and especially idioms. So pasabot ma'am. They are like more bit siya drop in the ocean of English culture that reflects its significance throughout history. English is a language particularly rich in idioms. So, gabi gyud kaayo og ka na mga use of idioms, most especially ka ng mga dialect, no? There are 25,000 idiomatic expressions in the English language, but these idioms are very cultural. Ngano nahitabo man na siya, nganong kana na ang naamay nahimugso nga idiom, based man na siya sa mga experiences before. Nga na ay gikan og legend, gikan og stories, gikan og mga proverbs, mga sayings. No, third paragraph. Language is both part of culture as well as the medium by which culture is defined and described. So, muna to akong giingon earlier na atay mga stories, fairy tales, no? They are our way of life. Now, how do we make sure unsa din ni pasabot anang culture, ma'am? Di ba culture is the way we think, the way we do things, ato ang mga beliefs, ato ang mga traditions. But there is actually connection between language and culture. What do we mean? Now, the relationship between language and culture is viewed from three opposite angles. So, man siya. First, language may be observed as tightly and closely correlated with culture. Language and culture are inseparable. Di gid pwede mabuwag, no? Number two, language and culture are viewed as widely independent phenomena, considering language as a means of communication that can be used anywhere, at any time, in any in any sphere, in a way that is not connected with culture. Lain said no. O ikatulo, between two perspectives, language and culture are partly, marag di gid kaayo, but partly lang interconnected. Okay. Now let's look into the following contentions of Gramsci, no? He said, through verbal communication, members of a society convey the cultural actuality. The correct arrangement of words not only expresses ideas but also reflect manners and attitudes. Second, language embodies cultural reality. People provide significance to their daily life experiments through language. Okay, ikatulo, which I like, culture symbolizes cultural reality. Like members of a community view their local language as a symbol of their cultural identity. True. No? May hala ka, Bisaya niya iludabi, gabi siya balad. So, gabi ko kaiyahang pagka love of the language of the Bisaya. No? When language is used in context of communication, it is bound up with culture, and speakers identify themselves and others through their use of language. They view their language as symbol of their societal or social identity. In other words, language is a vehicle. So tool good siya, no? For people to communicate with their peers and convey meaning into their social and cultural reality. Okay? Therefore, last for this lesson, culture is therefore part of language. As stated by Sapir, language is a purely human and non-extinctive method of communicating ideas, emotions, and desire by means of voluntarily produced symbols. Okay. Now, Brisgar claims that language is a part of culture and a part of epidermal behavior. Gabi no, murag imong skin ba, epidermal behavior. The way you do things, di gid mabuwag ang language sa imuhang mga behavior. It is predominantly held that the task of language is to put thoughts into words, to communicate pieces of information, and to express feelings. Language fulfills many other functions as maintaining a friendly societal relationship between people, such as greeting people, expressing needs, etc. So there are three important aspects. First, language is a primary vehicle of communication. Gabi na ginigbalik-balik ana no nga tool gini siya for communication. Second, language reflects both the personality of the individual and the culture of history. In turn, it helps in shaping both personality and culture. And lastly, language makes possible the growth and transmission of culture, the continuity of societies, and the effectivity or the effective functioning and control of the social groups. Okay? So, sa ato pa gyud ay, when we say language, maka-affect gyud siya sa culture, no? Kay the way you use words has something to do with your behavior. Kumayang ay ka na mga taga Iloilo. Just an example ni ha. Ay ka taga Iloilo. Mga malambing kayo no sila. Ha? The behavior is malambing. How were they able to say that? Maybe because the way the people from Iloilo speak. Unsa man sila de? Te, naghambal ko gid sa imo ya, suko na gid ko sa imo ya, di ba mong anak man na sila? Nga kanang malumanay kaayo bisag na suko na ba? Gamay na lang kag kuwang ya, hapit na gud ko ka high blood sa imo. Di ba? Sa ilang tono, malambing kay sila. So generally, but I'm not saying all of them are like that. Generally, na brand sila with that because of the way they speak and because of the words they use. O, contrary to that, may like, hala, taga Samar ba ya na? No offense to those in Samar ha, but I'm not generalizing. Pero I have a very good friend of mine, taga Samar, gid siya. Sus kami, dry. He himself really told me nga, sila jud kuno sa taga Samar, isog jud kuno sila. Kumao ba? The way they speak no nga. Di ba gingon ko nimo nga kanana na diha? Murag pinabusdak ba? But wala sila masuko. Inaana ra gyud ilang way of saying, no? Sometimes some of us may say, Mom ko no, mahadlok ko ano niya nga maestra. Nga naman, Kung naisog kayo, pero dili ko na siya isog, jud. The way lang na siya mutok. Excuse me, class. What did I tell you? Ana, isog ba, ka na bang bugat lang yun, og ka ng tono ba? So, the way you communicate, mura yun na siya mapart pod sa imuhang culture. Okay. Now, some of us may say, Ma'am, lain man tag words pod no, kay we're talking about language, we're talking about culture. Siguro pod because lain man taog kana na ang experiences. Say for example, mayong kag kana na ang kanang word nga mamukbo sa kuan pa na no sa karkar taga karkar ko. Pamubo na sa tanom. So may nang pamubo be. Water the plants, no? But in other parts of Cebu, like say for example, sa Karkar, pamubo man na amo aditong term. Siguro, I'm not sure ha, but maybe another town would not use the word pamubo. They would make use of the word pamisbis. No? Pamisbis, pamubo, parihara ba yun na, no? Pamisbis or pamubo. These are what we call morphological, dialectal variations. So sa ato pa, lahi siya variety di ay ang ato ang dialect, no? Okay, we're talking about Cebuano dialect for example. So mayon sa kag buslot. Sa uban pud ana di man na buslot. Unsa man na ma'am? Bangag. Or uban pud buho. Huh? Okay, this is now the challenge, which is now your assignment. Culture as part of language. I'd like you to examine your community and the language used in your community. So, taga-Barili ka. Butangan mo diha sa imong band paper, no? Janet Mananay from Barili. Or, sa imong name diha, Mark, kinsa ka diha, from Sambuan, or taga-asa kadapita. And then I'd like you to list down 15 words, at least 15 words. Kung more than 15 words, plus points. Tanaw na ko, ha? I'd like you to list, pero dapat, dili mo lower than 15 words. Naagid siguro na, no? Magkuhan mo, pangutana gid mo sa inyong mga parents din, ha, in your community. Ayaw lang po mag-adto dito sa mga baryo-baryo, kay COVID pa ba yaron. So I'd like you to list down 15 words which are morphologically different. A dialect which is morphologically a variety. Example, mo to akong gihisgutan, no? Ang ubang mga provinces o ubang towns, may nagbuslot. Pero sa Bohol, or sa tunga part sa Bohol, ilang giterm sa buslot no kay bangag. Yan na po'y buho. Sumsa ng buho. Sa Bulhoon, for example lang na ha, I'm not sure if taga Bulhoon mo ugbagid na ila ha. But I'd like you to list it down like this and submit it next week. This is already uploaded in your Google Classroom. Even the instructions is also there, including even kani PowerPoint na nani sa ato ang Google Classroom. So, the assignment again is to list down 15 words that are different from your town in terms of the morphological aspect of the dialect that is uniquely in your town. Like, kani nga word, ma'am, diri ra gid sa amo abi gigamit ay. Pero madunggan man nako sa ubang lungsod, uy nga kani nga word, mauni nga word ilang gamit didto aning lungsura. Pero diri sa amo lahi man among termino, no? Example, unsa pay laing example kanang daghang varieties, no? So I'd like you to list that down. Culture affects language. Language affects culture. Interconnectedness of language and culture. All right, so that ends our session for today. Thank you very much for listening, and I'd like you to make use of the asynchronous session to do this Google assignment. If you have questions, please feel free to email me, mananayj@cnu.edu.ph, all small letters, or you can message me privately in my Facebook account Messenger or in my mobile number 0927 633 4789. All right, so goodbye everyone, and see you in our Google Classroom.